We're always talking about the best drum exercises, but what about the worst drum exercises? What if I told you there were exercises that would not only not move you towards your goal, they would move you away from your goal? And I'm here to tell you, this first one, some of you will not only be mad, you'll be downright livid about it. Over my career as a player and a teacher teaching tens of thousands of students around the world, online and offline, these are the 5 exercises or categories of exercises that, in my opinion, are the worst. Now, I told you, this first one, some of you may disagree, some of you may get angry, some of you may get absolutely livid because it flies in the face of a lot of what your older favorite players have said. So for me, my experience as a teacher and a player, one of the worst things you can do is practice on a pillow. Look, when I heard about this, I thought, oh man, I totally respect this player. I should practice on a pillow. But as I went through my professional life and I found that I was playing with more and more friction in my technique, I came to find out that maybe practicing on a pillow wasn't all it was cut out to be. I'm not the only one that thinks this. You have other players like Jojo Mayer, who has said repeatedly that practicing on a pillow makes you sound like you're playing on a pillow. No sound source on our drum kit completely sucks the life out of a stick. And that is exactly what a pillow does. Even our floor tom, the lowest tuned thing that we hit with sticks, it still has some rebound to it. In my playing, I'm wanting to play with a loose grip. I'm wanting to use as much of the rebound of the stick and let the stick do as much of the work as possible. You know, we've got old Newton. What does that guy know? For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. We can use these natural laws to help make playing more effortless and easier. Even when I'm using my fingers or my wrist to control the stick, there is still very little friction at the fulcrum point. My goal is to grip that stick as lightly as possible, to have the fingers do as much of the work as they need to do, but no more. So when I practice on a pillow and then I come back to playing here, what I'm noticing is I'm trying to take back control of the stick completely. I'm not allowing rebound to help me. I'm not allowing the surface of the drum to help me. So take it from me, someone who injured himself several times in his professional career playing with too much tension, tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, wrist problems. Playing with tension in your drumming is not the way to go. For me, when I practice on a pillow, it brings tension into my grip. It brings tension into my fulcrum. It makes me overwork. And for that reason, I don't suggest any of my students practice on a pillow. I suggest you practice on the surface you're actually going to be playing on. The second exercise is exercises that have no musical application. Look, I'm all about furthering yourself as a drummer, as a musician, challenging yourself, coming up with ways that you can have 18 arms and see if you can play those patterns. But if we are constantly practicing things that we're not applying to the music that we're playing, that have no direct musical application, I've got to ask the question, what are we doing? The purpose of practice is to move us towards the goal of playing music. If our entire practice time consists of playing 5/7, learning random linear licks, trying to play blazing fast patterns for the sake of playing blazing fast patterns, and we're never finding a place to practically apply these things in our playing, to me, it's one of the worst things you can do. No matter what you're working on, you want to find a way to directly apply it to the music that you're going to be engaging in. And it can be in the smallest way. But all too often, I'll have a drummer send me a clip and say, hey, what do you think? And in the entire clip, it's just a bunch of chopsing out that would never be applicable on a gig, on a recording session, playing with other musicians. That's great that you can play 64th notes over 9/17 ostinato in your feet while also feeding the dog. But can you make the music feel good? And when called upon, can you use those skills you've been working on in your practice time to better the music? Number 3, practicing things that we can already play well. You have to understand there's a difference in review time in your practice and work time in your practice. Practice time should require effort. Focused practice requires effort. There is a problem in that exercise. Now, maybe that problem is very small. Maybe you're trying to fix a small technique issue. Maybe you've got the basic pattern down, but you're trying to get it to feel better. That's okay. We have something we're working towards. My problem is whenever you take out the book and you run through exercises 1 through 12 because that's on the list to do, and you just do that, and you can do that, run at this BPM, no problems, go on to the next one. There's nothing wrong with that. Do that in the review time of your practice. But don't do that for 45 minutes and call it real practice. You can call it review. If we stay in this area of only doing the things we can do, we will always only do the things we can do, right? It makes sense. So if you find yourself sitting there practicing and you're thinking about what you're gonna have for dinner or maybe where you're gonna take your girlfriend out, snap back into it, Casanova. Find a way to make the exercise hard. Find a way to break the exercise or move on to another exercise. Carve out a review time where maybe every day after you've practiced, you go back and you review the material that you've worked on previously just so you keep it fresh. But in your practice, your focused practice time, we want to make those exercises that are difficult, that are pushing us, and that have some degree of drumming, of musicality that we can't do. This next one is in the same family as number 3, but number 4 is repetition for the sake of repetition. You know what I'm talking about. You're just gonna do this exercise 5 times because you said you're gonna do it 5 times and you're just trying to mark off something, and so you clock in and you do it 5 times and then you clock out. Every time you run an exercise, you need to have something specific that you are looking to improve upon. And when you run that exercise again, you need to have that same thing that you're still needing to improve upon, or you have moved to something different with that exercise that you're seeking to improve upon. Don't just continue to run the song over and over knowing there's 5 different places in the song that you get hung up. Pinpoint the first one and stop running the entire song. Only run that section until you get it out, then add it back into the song. Then go to the next section you're having problems with. Run it over and over till you get it. Add it back into the song. Don't just keep mindlessly playing the song, because what happens is you will play a song like that or an exercise like that, and you get to the end of it and you say, I just can't play that exercise. I just can't play that song. I hear this all the time from my students. The fact of the matter is you actually can play 95% of the song. There are 4 or 5 different spots in there where you have a problem for 2 or 3 beats. Fix those and stop whining about it. Stop the mindless repetition in your practice time. Get focused and find the thing that you're trying to fix in that exercise. And if you can't get through the exercise without stumbling or bumbling it up, stop the exercise, figure out which beat, which note, which set of notes, which section of the song is giving you problems. Pinpoint that, isolate it outside of that exercise, and once it's fixed, put it back in the exercise with the song. And finally, number 5, this one's a sneaky one. I hear it from my students all of the time. It's exercises that aren't moving you towards the goals that you set ahead of time. The internet, social media is great for this. See if this scenario sounds familiar. You sit down and you decide, I need to work on things 1, 2, and 3 in my drumming. So you pick the material, you get it all together. You start practicing. Day 1 goes great. Day 2 goes great. Day 3, you log on to Instagram and you see so-and-so play this awesome thing. And then in the back of your lizard brain, it goes, hey, we should work on that. So the next time you sit down to practice, you're like, well, I know I said I was gonna work on this, but man, this thing is pretty cool. Let me grab that shiny object and start trying to work on it. Well, guess what? If it's double bass and you're playing in a straight ahead jazz group and that's what you're practicing, you're not going towards your goals. Now, am I saying you shouldn't practice double? No, you should practice double bass. You should practice everything in its own time. We have to be organized about this thing. We have to be specific about this thing. We have to decide on goals ahead of time. We have to move towards those goals. And if you have something else that becomes a goal, write it down. And then when you finish your current goals, move on to those. Only stick to the exercises that are pushing you towards your goals. If you remember nothing else, remember this. You truly waste time if you work on material and don't get it to a place where you can put it into your drumming, use it in the music. You truly waste time if you abandon that topic before it has made its way into your playing. So if you work on it for 2 weeks and you still can't play it and you leave to go practice something else because, it's not really, you have wasted 2 weeks because that item is still not in your playing. You're trying to go for more instead of going for less material on a deeper level. That's the key to getting to where you want to go. Less material, worked on at a deeper level until you see it show up in your playing.